Shakur Brittle Hands Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is now injured. Bad news. His fight is canceled. Check out my previous video on the subject. In this video, I want to pose a very serious question. And that question is, with these lingering hand issues that Shakur Stevenson has been saying he's having, can he beat Gervonta Davis? Ego thoughts, man. I told you I'm going back to the basics, ego thoughts, where I just talk about things that I want to talk about. And in lieu of news that Shakur Stevenson is not fighting in October or for the rest of this year, it begs the question that I asked at the start of this video. Can Shakur Stevenson truly beat Gervonta Davis? Now, for what it's worth, I never personally had Shakur Stevenson beating Gervonta Davis. It's not a knock on him. I just think Gervonta Davis, he's getting better experience. I don't care what anyone says. There's a lot of people who say, oh, Tank didn't fight this guy. Why is Tank not fighting this guy? But you put him in front of Tank, he knocks him down like bowling pins, period. And a lot of people are sleeping on the opponents. Like, for example, when Tank fights somebody, then people find a way to try to denigrate the fight. Like if Tank fights Ryan Garcia when he's undefeated, people said, oh, you know, Ryan, what has he done? He hasn't been a champion. But later on, one fight removed from quitting in the Tank fight after Tank beat Ryan Garcia, Ryan fights Duarte. And then when it's announced that Devin Haney will fight Ryan Garcia, then everybody loved the fight. So it's funny how that works. But when it was Ryan undefeated, who's much taller and bigger than Tank, right? People had a problem with the fight. And then you look at Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, they look very comparable in terms of size. They both rehydrate a lot of weight. They're both around the same age. And then you've seen the outcome of that particular fight. I understand it got reversed and the no contest and the Osterine, but I'm just going off of the fight I seen. Devin Haney had trouble, all the problems in the world with that left hook, right? Guys like Pitbull Cruz, that was a late replacement. It was supposed to be Rolly, which he did later fight Rolly, right? And when Pitbull Cruz, when Tank beats him with one hand, mind you, people, they're like, oh, who's Pitbull Cruz, blah, blah, blah. But then when Rolly later fought Pitbull Cruz and Rayo just beat Pitbull Cruz, now all of a sudden people giving Pitbull Cruz victory, you know, to Rayo, they're giving it a lot of credit, right? So it's just funny how this works. Now, Devin Haney was one of the guys that I seen the Haneyacks were trying to sick. They were trying to sick Devin on Tank, thinking that somehow Devin would beat Gervonta Davis. And I never really seen that. And then when Devin Haney had his own problems with Ryan Garcia, he's now been out of the public, like I guess you could say, getting in carnival fights at the OC Fair. A lot of those people, they turncoat and then they started pitching for Shakur Stevenson and suggested that he was the man for the job. And it's funny because they keep trying to build a Frankenstein to beat Gervonta Davis. At one point years ago, it was Lomachenko. People said Tank was afraid to fight Lomachenko. Lomachenko had a golden opportunity to fight Tank this year, and his fight probably could have been announced here soon, maybe even at this Canelo fight. But Lomachenko says he's not in the mood to fight, which is very bizarre. You were in the mood to fight George Kambosos, but the guy you said you wanted to fight and the fans said was ducking you, now you're not in the mood to fight for no good reason, right? And then again, things didn't play out with Devin Haney in the Ryan Garcia fight. He's fighting at the OC Fairs, and now people have shifted their energy from the Lomachenkos to the Devins to now Shakur Stevenson. And there's been some guys in between, but those are the bigger names. And I am again posing the question to you because I don't see how Shakur Stevenson, yes, he's talented, but I do not see any way that he can beat Tank Davis if you were punching in your last fight with all your might and you couldn't even drop or stop Artem Harutyunyan coming off of a loss. And then now in preparation for a Joe Cordina fight, your hands gave out on you, you said. And I got a video coming out where I will talk more about that. So make sure you guys subscribe. I am the best in the business. I give you guys uncut boxing 24/7. Not just a bunch of rushed videos, low quality audio, low quality video. I take my time with these videos and give you all that work. So again, for me, when it comes to Shakur Stevenson, I think I got to see more because competition wise, he hasn't really been fighting the guys that I want to see. Like even Devin Haney, he could say I fought Loma, Regis Prograis, Ryan Garcia. That's a nice little 3-fight stretch. And then before that, he had 2 fights with George Kambosos. So nobody's really knocking Devin Haney's resume and his progress. But Shakur Stevenson, who's roughly in that same age group, he hasn't really been fighting that level of competition like a Lomachenko. Name a Lomachenko. Now, Shakur, I'm sure him and the Inshakurs, they'll argue that it's because Loma don't want it. But it's up to your team to get the fights done. You know, you were with Top Rank. Part of it could be Shakur's style. You know, if your promoter that you were with at the time didn't see the value in matching a Lomachenko because they feel it'll be a boring fight, you know, maybe you have to make adjustments. But I really feel that Shakur tried, based on the criticism for the Edwin De Los Santos fight, he really tried to sit down on his punches in his next fight with Artem Harutyunyan. And then now he said after that fight, he had both of his hands were hurt. And now he's getting some kind of surgery and he has tendon issues. So again, it's not looking good if this is the Frankenstein that people allegedly built for Gervonta Davis, because like I've been saying, how can you beat Gervonta Davis if your hands don't hold up and you're limited with power? And I remember Gervonta Davis said that in the interview. He was like, you weren't knocking dudes out at 126 and 130. What you gonna do at 135? And then now when you're adding injury to it, it adds insult to the injury. How can you keep Gervonta Davis off you when he seems to be such in his prime? Frank Martin boxed a very clean fight as long as he could, and Tank had a non-stop insane presence and pressure on Frank Martin. And I do believe Frank Martin is athletic. He's about Shakur Stevenson's size, you know, maybe a little bit shorter, but he's in shape. He probably outweighs on the night of the fight a guy like Shakur Stevenson, you know, because he looks pretty brolic. And he boxed as well as he could. And I understand styles make fights. Shakur is not Frank Martin, but you know, we seen what happened in the Frank Martin fight. One false move, Tank with the constant pressure burst pipes, you know. And then Shakur, if he's really confident and he truly wanted to fight Tank, why would your first announced fight be with Eddie Hearn and Turkey and against a guy named Joe Cordina? And now you're sitting out for the rest of the year and they're talking about in 2025, you can fight William Zepeda. So I want to leave y'all with that. Let me know what you guys think. Can Shakur beat Tank? With the hand issues, it's looking sus.